you very much. Thank you. And I really appreciate you allowing me to have a little bit of time. One of the things that I'm doing is trying to learn as much as I can about the community and getting out and having conversations about what's happening in the community, who's doing what and where. And I'm using the Community Advisory Council as one of those avenues. I will talk a little bit about it, but I'm more here to answer any questions that folks may have about what we're trying to do. But just to get right into it, we don't have a lot of time, but so the purpose of the council is to assist the organization, i.e. myself, my staff, and the board in better understanding the needs of our community by fostering, and this is very important, by fostering grassroots conversations that may influence the direction that we go. And so I'll just explain that a little bit more. The way in which we're going to utilize the CAC, as we're calling it, is that we're going to be very clear about defining what we're actually trying to do based upon some of the data that we're going to be doing, researching, learning more about what some of the needs are, the opportunities. However, I always tell people the data can tell me one thing, but the people will tell you something else. Our hope is that once we are kind of articulating some of the ways in which the directions that we want to go and some of the work that we want to do, the CAC will bring a presentation to the CAC and say, hey, this is what we've been researching. This is our better understanding of, name the topic. How does this land in the community? Does this sound like, does this jive with what you're hearing on the ground? Is the direction that we're going with something that you think we can get the community behind? Making sure that we have a better understanding about the true needs, not just what the data says about how bad something may be in the community. So that's really the driver of utilizing the CAC as that. What will it take for folks to be able to be members? So number one, you have to be a resident of the county. You will need to, this is eligibility. You must be a resident here. You cannot be an elected official or a current member of any of those boards or a member of the governing body or the governing management of Novant Health Coastal Region, any of its affiliates. However, one of the things that I want to key in on as far as eligibility, there is no required level of education completed. We want people from all walks of life to feel free to be a part of this endeavor, and we don't want anything to preclude people to feel like they can't be a part of this. You can be affiliated with a nonprofit. You can be a board or even a staff member of a nonprofit and not worry about whether or not your organization will be disqualified from being able to apply. Because this body will not be making grant decisions, there is no conflict of interest, and so people won't have to worry. So if, we'll encourage members of all nonprofits, if you have a desire to be a part of us, you can. Even if you are a part of one, and let's say you get on the CAC, all we'll ask you to do is if we have a conversation about your organization, or if you hear if something comes up about a particular organization that you have affiliation with, just identify that affiliation. That's it. That's all we ask for. As far as elected officials, this is the election season, so people, you can be a political candidate, but let's say you get on the CAC before you are elected. If you are elected after your appointment to the CAC, you will have to resign from the CAC. We're not going to preclude. We're not going to tell people you can't apply if you are running because you may not win. But once you win, if you are a member, then we're going to ask for you to step down, and so we can replace you with someone in your place. The terms of service, what we're asking people to do. A normal term of service is 3 years. However, to establish staggered terms, because we're going to be bringing 15 people on, and we don't want 15 people rolling off and 15 people rolling on at any one point in time. We're going to divide those 15 individuals into 3 classes, as we're calling it, 5 members in each class. The first class will serve a 1-year term. The second class will serve a 2-year term, and the third class will serve a 3-year term. If you are one of the ones that get a 1-year term, at the end of your term, you can automatically apply reapply to be a part of the CAC again to get an additional 3 more years. So that just applies for the 1-year term people. At the end of your service, at the end of your term, you have to step off for at least a year before you can reapply. That goes for the 2 and the 3-year individuals. The way we'll decide who gets into which class is to be yet to be determined. Our board did the same thing, but they did, drawing numbers. But we're going to be a little bit more intentional than that. But we haven't absolutely decided exactly how we're going to ask people to stay in one class or the other. The time commitment. We're asking people. We'll initially begin with quarterly meetings. Those meetings will be organized and facilitated by the staff of the endowment. We'll create the agenda in partnership with the members. We'll have the learning agenda. We'll have some of the objectives and the outcomes for the meetings, and then immediately after the meetings, those what we come up with the meeting will be made public. So we'll be putting that information on our website. Let's say we had a session on early childhood development, and we talked a lot about some of the needs in the community. What comes out of that conversation will be we'll put that on our website. Someone asked the other night, are the meetings going to be open to the public? This is not a public entity, and so this is a private entity, and so these are going to be working meetings. I take the mind. I'm of the mind that if I can't participate in the meeting, I don't know if I want to be a part of a meeting. And so these meetings will be working meetings, and the information will be made public, but the meetings are not going to be open meetings because we are not a public entity. We are a private foundation. The responsibilities. Again, we talked about advising the organization on challenges and opportunities within our community, and the potential focus areas and the needs and the interests of our community. We will be developing quarterly reports, again, that will go on our website along with the staff. You'll be doing that. And we are asking for individuals to provide subject matter expertise in the 4 pillars. And this is another point that came up the other night. When we say subject matter experts, that doesn't mean educational attainment. What it means is, let's say you've been an advocate working on behalf of children's rights over the past 20 years, but that's all you've done is you've been volunteering, you've been working in the community. I would identify you, or you can identify yourself as a subject matter expert. We're not looking just for people who've gone to school for a particular issue. We're looking for folks with lived experience. We had a young man the other night said, well, I've been incarcerated. I've been in prison for a number of years. I think I have lived experience. I said, I'd agree with that. So please apply. And so we're very intentional about that. The criteria, and I'll answer any questions after this, but the ideal candidate will work well with others. This is as I call it, a choir. We're asking people to come into this room as a partner with other concerned voices in the community, not to come in as an advocate just for your thing, your organization or your opportunity, but really to come in to be a part of a body that's going to be deliberative, that's going to be intentional, and will hopefully be able to share their insights and their perspectives, their history of what's happening in our community. Depth of experience and knowledge and health and social equity is something that we're looking for. A unique experience, like the young man that was formerly incarcerated. That's a unique experience, lived experience, and most importantly, values collaboration. That's going to be something very, the endowment's going to be very intentional about in our work overall. And so every aspect of our work, you'll hear me say the word collaboration, partnership, networking, relationship over and over, because those are cornerstones to change, a sustainable change ultimately. So we'll be asking for people with interest in being collaborative as well. I think that's it. So to apply, just real quick, we're on the website. You can go to our website and you'll find it. The last day to sign up to apply will be May 13th. And we'll be making decisions in the following 2 to 3 weeks after that, and we'll hopefully be making the announcements by the end of June. for those who would have made it. So please encourage other folks to go online to apply. There's been someone asked, well, I feel, haven't you guys already made the decision? And I told them, well, that's news to me because I'm over the process. I'm going to read every single application. Our board members will read portions of them, but I will read all of them because I want to better understand who's submitting. And then we'll go into a deliberative process. We have a scoring rubric that we'll use. We'll make the process public so people understand how we made the decisions. If people have questions, we won't hesitate to answer any questions that they may have. So I'll be quiet and answer any questions that you may want to have answered.
I know, well, thank you for that. That's a lot of information. And we've been sharing this information that's on your website with our members and with our community. We even translated it into Spanish. And so we've been sharing it. The other thing that I have a question about is about the composition. Do you know what percentage of people, do you have a percentage of what we are pushing for is Latino representation? So we want to make sure there are a couple or three, at least two, but one would be the least that we're like, oh, well, at least there is one Latino perspective in there. What's the composition of the people that you're going to be?
We haven't landed on percentages. If there's anything, I'd say I'd look at the composition of the city or the county and say we should be representative of the population. I'm having these kinds of conversations because I want to be very intentional about getting more voices to apply. And so we'll have a broader pool of individuals to pull from. We won't, I can promise you this, we will have representation from every aspect of our community on the CAC. And that's why I want to be intentional about saying, I'm begging people, please to apply.
Yeah, we have two members who have applied already. We have, let's see, we have Michelle Montalvo, who's a clinician, a social worker, and also Isabella Lujan has applied. As far as I know, we have those two people. I'm sure you're going to get more applications than that. But from our group, those are the two people that have stepped forward and said, we're going to be part of this, of this project, because I think is important. So.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So Thank anybody you. Else? Isabella, do you have a question? Or Rebecca or Marta? Marta, it's good that if you let your teachers about, this important committee. And you said Marta Barreras works with the ESL department in Hanover County Schools, and she has a lot of ESL teachers. So we want
my question was,
go ahead, Isabella.
Yeah, sorry, my question was related with the percentage, what you were saying about representation, is if they were thinking about making it exactly how the census, the results of the last census, but he already answered that question, so fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I think, anybody else?
I think that in reference to that, I think that's very important that for you to know, Mr. Buster, that the Latino community in Wilmington has been underrepresented in a lot of different organizations, and it's a community that is growing. Mm-hmm. However, the stats on the government numbers don't really represent the true number of the community. So I want you to consider that when you say we're going to be representative of the community, I want you to remember that, okay, so we might show on census information that we represent 10% of Hanover County. That's not necessarily true. I think it's way higher than 10%. A lot of the Latino community identify or reports as white, and some identify or report as African American. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of the information where a lot of organizations get the data from, for example, in my case, I don't identify as white and I don't identify as African American, and I don't have a choice. So for my race, so sometimes I end up picking American Indian, because I'm an indigenous, Central American indigenous. So I'm not white and not African American necessarily, so I don't have a choice. So I may be misrepresented in the census data. So consider that when you are considering the numbers for that representation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right. I'll say real quick to that point. That's why I'm having these conversations, so I can learn exactly what is the community. Given that I've done work all across the Southeast, you know, folks for one reason or another aren't counted, and so I want to make sure that I get as much accurate information as possible to do that.
Thank you.
Yes. And the last thing, you know, is what I was saying during the presentation I gave. We're pushing that you have an equity language plan for whatever you give out, whether it's an agency or a nonprofit or a project, or, you know, that each agency, that each nonprofit has an equity plan, language equity plan embedded in their program, in their application. And also, we have a big issue about identification. How is our undocumented population going to have access to all that money or all those services? You know, it's a big issue. We are thinking it could be a county ID, you know, or, you know, and that is because you said it is a private organization, the private institution. You are not governed by government laws. I mean, you are still governed, but you don't have to. You don't have an imposition in reference to identification. You can come up with whatever you want. You have the freedom to do that, and you have the great opportunity to think about these these populations that are underrepresented, and not just us. Veterans have the same issue because they have a lot of mental health issues. They sometimes don't have access to an ID, and that's why you see a lot of homelessness related to veterans, because there is no identification for them. They've lost it, and they have no idea how to get it or track it back. So, you know, it's an issue beyond our Latinx community. And I think that's it from me.
Thank you, Ms. Victoria.
All right, so I guess that's it. Thank you, President Buster, for being here today. And if you ever want to come and talk to us and pick our brains, we're here for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. And you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
All right.
Bye.